Good evening, everyone, and thank you all for having me here. This is a real pleasure to be here back in Dallas. I love coming to the US, especially in Dallas. I was in New York 2 days ago. I was in Boston yesterday, and I really enjoy being here. So today, we're going to be talking about the future. We're going to be talking about the digital revolution, and we're going to be talking about artificial intelligence. But before I start, I want to know who among you here has heard about artificial intelligence before? Okay, who has heard about it 2 years ago? 3 years ago? Okay. So now who has understood how artificial intelligence worked? Okay, that will change after the presentation. This is very easy stuff. It's pretty much like the internet. We can talk about artificial intelligence in a very simple way. This is very simple concepts that everyone has to embrace. And last question before I start, who here is afraid of losing his job to AI? Okay, that will change too. Just kidding. Every time we're opening the newspapers these days, we're reading about AI taking over our jobs. That's the main concern today about artificial intelligence. The thing is, this is not science fiction anymore. We're entering the age of artificial intelligence. In fact, ever since we started making computers, we tried to make them intelligent, but we had no success doing that. First, we had no idea what intelligence meant. We had no idea what it was. We had no data to do that, and we had no computer power, and it was very expensive at the time. Now we do have all this. And in addition to that, we have a rough idea of what intelligence is, so we can make computers smarter now. What we mean by intelligence. So a very easy way to understand what artificial intelligence is that this is the total reverse of traditional computing. You all know that ever since you started using computers, every software, every computer that you use were programmed with rules. That means every time you click somewhere, every time you do something with a computer, the action that's enrolling has been programmed by a guy. It's following the rules. But we all know that intelligence is not about executing rules. This is about discovering the rules, changing the rules, understanding the worlds, abstracting concepts, things like that. Well, this is exactly how we create artificial intelligence today. Instead of programming rules in computers, we feed computers algorithms with data, and we let them discover the rules. In fact, this is pretty much like a baby. A baby doesn't know how to speak. He doesn't know the rules of grammar when he's born. He's just surrounded by people talking to him and then implicitly understands the rules of grammar. This is how we create artificial intelligence today. We feed algorithms with the data and we let them discover concepts, rules to understand the world. And what happened a few years ago is that we had a revolution in artificial intelligence because we used algorithms that can use a lot of data, and starting from the simplest concepts in the data, in pixels and pictures, for example, try to link those little concepts, the pixels, to abstract more and more complex concepts in the pictures. These algorithms, for instance, deep learning, as it was mentioned, that we can recognize what's in pictures today. In fact, we use what we call neural networks. This is algorithms that are pretty much like what we have in our brains, that are capable of grasping data and make sense of it. And the more data you feed these algorithms, the more they're able to understand what's in the data. When we feed pictures in these algorithms, we can train them to recognize what's on these pictures. This is actually what you're using on Facebook. When you tag someone on Facebook, you're teaching the algorithm who's on the picture. And the more picture of you Facebook has with tags, the more it's able to recognize you on those pictures. And in fact, it works with pictures on Facebook, but it also works with medical images. We can teach computers today to recognize cancers on medical images. We feed cancer images, we tell the computer, the algorithm, what type of cancer is in the pictures, and then the algorithm can recognize what kind of cancer is on the picture. And in fact, it works so well, and you will see that this is the case with artificial intelligence as a whole, that it reaches human level at some task, and then goes beyond human level. What we did a few months ago is that we developed an algorithm that could recognize the first signs of Alzheimer's in medical images 10 years prior to the first clinical symptoms. How do we do that? Well, we feed the algorithm with pictures of brains with and without Alzheimer. We do the same with pictures 10 years after, and the computer is able to understand what kind of picture, what kind of brain images will develop Alzheimer. So now the computer can tell with a picture whether or not you'll develop Alzheimer 10 years from now. The computer was taught it. So you understand the whole logic. We don't program computers anymore. We teach them. We train them like kids to understand the world, understand concepts, and reach goals. And this new ability with picture is the ability to see the world, to recognize its environment. Computers can now see. We call this computer vision. Now that computers can see, we'll give them another feature. We'll give them a visual field, everything we do in a computer, in a screen, in your smartphone, for instance, and we'll let them understand what they see and try to reach goals in this environment. So at the beginning, to make sure we could do that, we used video games. So we gave computers simple video games like Super Mario or like a racing game, and then we let the computer, just by trial and errors, millions of trials and errors, try and play the games. So they had the ability to play, to go left and right, to jump, etc., whatever you want. And then they tried to play it. So at the beginning, algorithm couldn't play it. For instance, if you look at it playing Super Mario, the computer really sucked at the beginning. It couldn't move Mario, it would fall into the traps, it would get eaten by monsters, etc. But the more the computer played, all by itself, the more the algorithm calibrated until Mario became excellent. In fact, the logic behind this is that when the algorithm is closer to reaching its goal, we reward it, we strengthen it, we reinforce it, and when it moves away from the goal, we punish it. We prevent it from continuing this way. This is how the computer can now play video games in a screen. The funny thing is, if you look at the results of Super Mario, for instance, but it works for any kind of game, Super Mario plays in a very weird way. It's jumping everywhere, spinning around. No human being plays Super Mario like that. Remember what I said, computer reaches human level and goes beyond it. In fact, when you check out the result and see how weird Super Mario's played, this is because the computer found out the optimal way to play Super Mario. Have you checked out in the news what happened to Google's artificial intelligence last year at the game of Go? Google used artificial intelligence to beat the best Go player in the world. And how did they do that? They used the ability of computers to recognize their environment. So they fed the algorithm with the games of the best Go players in the world, and then they used this technique to train it against itself to beat the best Go player in the world. And this is how they managed to beat the best guy. Same thing happened as in Super Mario. The best Go players watching the game, the scientists working on the AI, were not able to understand why the machine was playing in such a way. Same thing happened as in Super Mario. The algorithm discovered a new way to play Go. In fact, it's fascinating because Go is a game that's been played for centuries, for thousands of years, and no one among human beings had the idea to play it this way. The algorithm discovered a new way to play Go, and now every Go player is trying this new approach of playing Go. Same thing with the Google car, Google self-driving car. People are scared to hop in the Google car now because it drives in a weird way. Discovered a new way to drive. So now they're untraining it to drive like a machine, to train it more like a human being. We're not the best at doing things, and when computers decide to do things differently because they're optimal, we're kind of surprised. We're using computers to recognize the environment, and now we can teach them to do tasks in their visual field. This is why we use video games. But if we can use video games to train computers to do things, we can actually teach computers to do many kinds of things, because our lives actually unrolls in our visual fields like a video game with pixels, but it's our pixels. So if computers can recognize the world and do things in the visual field, we can do the same for our life. And in fact, we will all be training algorithms by using technology, using these algorithms. When you'll be, for example, performing a search on your computer, there will be an algorithm in the background running that will be watching what you do on your screen, and that will see that when you do a search, you're moving your mouse, you're launching a browser, you're opening Google, you're typing keywords, you're scrolling the results, etc. You will be teaching the computer what doing a search means. And then he'll be able to train by itself with these algorithms to do it again by itself. And we'll do that for many kind of tasks. Everything you do on an app, on a software, on your computer. In fact, we're the parents of these algorithms. This is already what we're doing. Every time you're having a walk in the mountains, in the forest, for example, you're sending your GPS location to Google or Apple. And if many people send the same GPS locations, well, you're just teaching Google that there is a way where you went by because you send the same GPS location. You're teaching their algorithm. We will all be participating to educating these algorithms to do new tasks and to understand the data that we're feeding them. We'll be their parents of those algorithms. And we'll do that with everything we do with technology. The revolution we're currently experiencing is actually enrolling everywhere, in every industry. We're switching from what Sundar Pichai, Google CEO, said, from a mobile-first world that was driven mainly by social networks, by mobile phones for about 10 years, to an AI-first world. Internet giants are putting artificial intelligence everywhere, in all their softwares. For example, at Google, they have now more than 5,000 projects only on artificial intelligence. They're putting it everywhere. And in fact, every industry is getting results with artificial intelligence today. In health, this is very impressive. We use these algorithms, for instance, to read and understand hundreds of thousands of scientific research on cancer, and they can find 6 cancer-fighting molecules within 2 weeks in a recent study. They also made a diagnosis on a rare form of leukemia in Japan 2 years ago within 10 minutes, where doctors could not make the diagnosis. Remember what I said. They reach human level and they go beyond it. The problem is that we cannot understand how these algorithms work. We have a rough idea what they do, but we cannot explain. If you want to understand what a neural network looks like, it's pretty much like an Excel spreadsheet with thousands, millions of cells with numbers, and every time you change a number, it changes all the other numbers. This works to drive a Google car, self-driving car, but as a human being, you cannot understand that. This is a complex system. Every industry is now being impacted. Google used these algorithms last year to cut down 40% on their utility bill for cooling down their servers. This is not a fake number, 40%. Now they want to go further. They want to cut 10% on the utility bill of the whole city of London. And these guys have no limits. That's from DeepMind, the company acquired by Google that beat the best Go player last year. Their CEO said, actually, that their main goal was to solve intelligence to then use it for everything else. They want to do what we call general artificial intelligence to solve any kind of task. We use it everywhere, even in the legal industry. JP Morgan, they use these algorithms to read and understand legal contracts, and they were able to do the equivalent of 360,000 hours of lawyer work within 1 second. Again, this is not a fake number. Get used to these numbers because you'll be reading them in the news every day. We're currently experiencing, with artificial intelligence, the exact same thing we had with electricity at the beginning of the 20th century and the internet 20, 30 years ago. That was just the beginning of the changes, but this will impact every industry in our professional lives and in our personal lives. In fact, we tend to think that computer programmers are going to be the guy we're going to be needing most doing this in the future world, but in fact, we're already having artificial intelligence writing its own code today. Artificial intelligence developing other artificial intelligences. Even coders are now being disrupted. We talk about creativity usually when we refer to human intelligence, and we say, okay, machines are logic. They're logical. They're only about logic. They can't be creative. Well, the thing is in computer science is that when you define a concept, you can make a model out of it. And we define creativity as gathering things that no one had the idea to bring together before that have value when you bring them together. This is what creativity is about. Take musical notes, for instance. If you bring them together, you have a melody, if it sounds good. Take paintings, this is shapes, colors, etc. Take literature, text, words, ideas. You group these things together. And an artist, someone who's creative, has an assessment function in the brain that tells him whether or not these things brought together have value or not. We're modeling these kind of algorithms today, and this allows us to create art with artificial intelligence. We have artificial intelligence writing music, playing the piano, disrupting orchestras in Silicon Valley these days. We also have artificial intelligence making paintings, writing novels, writing articles online, etc. This is just the beginning, so they won't win Nobel Prizes yet. But this is expanding exponentially. Every industry, even art, will be disrupted by artificial intelligence. In fact, we're modeling every cognitive function that we have in the brain. Computers can already see the world. They can adjust to reach goals, but we will do that for every cognitive function. Maybe tomorrow we'll do that with consciousness once we define what it is. It's just a matter of definition, and then you can model it. The thing is, we're entering this period of disruption, but it will change a lot in terms of how we see the world. Have you heard about the marshmallow test? For those of you who haven't heard about the marshmallow test, this is a very powerful test that exists since the 1970s that was designed by Stanford University. And this is a bit controversial because with a simple test with the marshmallow, you can assess a kid's future success in life. How do we do that? We put kids in a room, just one kid in a room at a time, with a marshmallow, and you tell the kid you have two options. You can eat the marshmallow right away, or you can wait for 20 minutes. If you don't eat it, I'll give you two. And then you separate the kids in two groups, and there is a huge correlation between the kids who waited 20 minutes to get the two marshmallows and their future success in life, measured by their parents' assessment, their grades at school, their ability to form and maintain relationships, etc. Lots of criteria, but this is strongly correlated. My point is, in social science, we already know that with very simple variables, even dumb variables like marshmallow eating or not, we can guess other variables that we don't have about someone or something. Everything is kind of correlated. Well, with artificial intelligence, we will all be going through marshmallow tests every time we use technology. Today, when you're using Facebook, just by watching how many times you'll go to Facebook a day, at what time, what frequency, what you like, what results you scroll, what you post, who your friends are, we can guess a lot about you indirectly. This is a marshmallow test. We can guess whether or not you'll commit suicide in a short period. We can guess who you'll vote for, even influence who you'll vote for, as it was a scandal in the news. We can also guess your mood very accurately. We're actually very predictable. And this is a humbling experience for human beings. We're way more predictable than we thought. And with these algorithms, we're going to be very surprised to what we're going to be able to know about ourselves. They will know us much more than we know ourselves, and that our friends know us. And these algorithms, again, are going to be everywhere in the background in all the technologies that we'll be using. The impact of artificial intelligence in business now. The thing is, today, you already know that knowledge has no economic value anymore in business. This is very useful, but this is like air or water. It's available in abundance. So this is not, you're not making money with it. Expertise has value today. Because if you have medical knowledge in abundance online or legal knowledge online, if you're not an expert, you cannot process this knowledge, this is useless. So in today's world, what has value is expertise, the ability to process knowledge. But you'll understand that with these algorithms, expertise will also become a commodity because every expert will train algorithms to reach his level of expertise. Doctors will train algorithms to recognize cancers better than themselves. Lawyers will train algorithms to select the right arguments to, in a case, to put the probabilities that a judge will have on a case, etc. Every expert, no matter what he does, will train the algorithm to reach his level of expertise. So knowledge is a commodity. You don't make money out of it anymore. Expertise will become a commodity. What's left for us human beings? Empathy, relationship, and trust, soft skills. You will not go see your doctor anymore for medical expertise. It will be done by an algorithm, and this is very good news for everyone, because you know that on average, when you go see your GP, it's a 47 to 49% of a right diagnosis on average. So this is very good news for everyone. But I'm talking about GPs, but this is actually the same for every kind of experts. we're not that good, actually, as human beings. And there's huge differences in terms of experts. You can have 15 different opinions if you see 15 different experts. So you will not go see your doctor for his medical expertise, but you will continue to go see your doctor because he listens to you, because you have a trust relationship with him, because he has empathy with you. In fact, there is a huge placebo effect just by seeing and talking to your doctor, roughly 30% on average. So corporations won't make money out of knowledge, neither expertise in tomorrow's world, and again, this is for every industry. They will make money in building trust with each other and a great experience with their customers. This is what internet giants got all right. I don't know if you guys had troubles with Amazon someday. If you just click on a button, they call you back, they know your name, they much of the time they know what your problem is. They never hang up if they don't solve your problem. They apologize, and then they give you coupons to apologize. What kind of service is that? This is a great experience, and this is going to be the standard we're going to be willing to have with any kind of business in tomorrow's world, because expertise will make a difference. And again, this is for every industry. Today, intelligence makes a difference in the business because it costs a lot. First, intelligence is scarce, and then it has a huge cost in terms of education and experience. School experience, work, whatever you want. This has a huge cost. But these algorithms will also become commodity because they will be available in the cloud, and every business will be able to use them to do new things with them. In fact, it will not make a difference in businesses. Today, every corporation thinks that they will use artificial intelligence to be better at what they do, to increase performance, but this won't be the case because every business will use the same algorithms that will be available in the cloud. Jeff Bezos from Amazon said that they're providing these tools for free in the cloud if you're a client. Same thing with Microsoft, Apple, they will be available. So corporations will reach the same maturity level with these technology. This is pretty much like today. You don't make a difference in business by having a website or database because everyone has those. It will be the same thing with artificial intelligence, and the pace is accelerating. So if you don't use artificial intelligence, you're dead. But this is not because you will be using artificial intelligence that you will succeed in business, because it will be very easy to reach this maturity level. In fact, what businesses are going to have to do is pretty much like Uber. Uber didn't map all the roads of the planet. This is what Google and Apple did with Google Maps and Apple's. But Uber built a service on top of Google Maps, connecting drivers with passengers. Corporations are going to have to do the same. The algorithms will be available, and they're going to have to use these algorithms to build new services that have value for the clients. The difference will be on the experience with these algorithms, not just because you're using them. This is absolutely crucial because businesses today think it's only a matter of performance. In fact, I'll get to that after it. There's a problem with artificial intelligence and disruption these days is that experts talking about artificial intelligence, disruption in their respective businesses are always wrong about disruption, because disruption never comes from the expert. It comes from the outsiders. Remember 2 years ago when Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg said that he was going to be using these algorithms he actually said we could cure all the diseases by the end of the century with artificial intelligence. How do you think doctors on the planet reacted to that? They all said, this guy he's wrong. He has no idea what he's talking about. He's not even a doctor. How could he say that? Well, same thing happened to Elon Musk when he said a few years ago that he was going to be creating rockets that were going to be reusable. At the NASA, they all made fun of him. Well, when he finally made it, they stopped laughing, and in fact, he hired the best in his teams. Always happens with disruption. It never comes from the experts, it comes from the outsiders, because once you become an expert at something, you always use the same solution to solve a problem. And this is the worst approach to disruption. You have to see problems in a totally different light to disrupt the business. If you look at every disruption going on today, it could be Uber, Airbnb, anything you want, it comes from people that had no idea about the business they're disrupting. When we ask Elon Musk what gave him the idea of creating reusable rockets, he said, I didn't know it was possible. I just started reading books. And he made an opinion. He wasn't in that before. Same thing happens with disruption all the time. Remember Einstein? Same thing with Einstein. When he started working on physics, he disrupted Newtonian physics with his theories on relativity, general and relative. And he became too much of an expert at this, that a few years later, when quantum mechanics came around, he rejected most of it. But we now know that he was wrong on some part of it because he became too much of an expert. So expertise is a problem in disruption. So hire people that have no idea about your business, talk to them, talk to juniors. They probably have a better idea about disrupting your business. And again, everyone is in the same boat in disruption. Every industry is impacted by disruption these days. In fact, there is a huge trend with disruption these days for VCs and entrepreneurs, especially in Silicon Valley. They're taking every industry, every asset, all the ways to make money, and for each of them, they're trying to break them. They're trying to disrupt them. They say, how do we break that? How do we kill that? This is very aggressive, but this is the way they want to see things collapsing. The problem is that many corporations try to protect its core business and tries to make it only digital. Remember Kodak? This is what they did. When digital cameras came around, first, they invented it and they thought it was never going to be mainstream. But second, once they started seeing that it could be mainstream, they said, well, this is a great idea. Our business is to print photos. People will take lots of photos. We'll print lots of them. We'll make lots of money. They never thought people would stop printing photos and just watch them on their smartphones or on social networks. So if you want to disrupt your business, instead of trying to protect the core business and try and make it better, you need to kill it yourself, to disrupt it yourself, because if you don't, someone else will. And the way to do that is to imagine where the value is going to be in your business instead of trying to make it better to improve performance. If your core business will still have value, this is cool. You can infuse artificial intelligence. But if not, you have to pivot like a startup where the value is. And the difference between traditional businesses and disruptive businesses is their mindsets. When you talk to banks, for instance, or utilities or a telco, they'll say that they're protecting their business with digital only. They want to be more efficient, mostly, do things better. When you talk to disruptive business, they're obsessed about killing their business. And in fact, they all did many times. Steve Jobs, for example, when he invented the iPhone, he disrupted the iPod. And this was a huge risk because the iPod was making a lot of money at the time. So they were using all the resources in Apple on this, lots of resources. And this was very risky at the time to launch a product, killing a stream of revenue without being sure that the iPhone would work. It could kill your business. But he tried it, he did it, and it worked. If you look at Netflix, at first they were sending DVDs over the postal service. Then they disrupted it to have online streaming of videos with an algorithm. But now they're going further. In fact, Rita Hastings, their CEO, he said that the future of entertainment is not watching a movie like today. And he was saying this is going into the movie. And he was not referring to virtual reality or augmented reality. He was referring to some kind of safe drugs, magic mushrooms or something, approved by the government, something safe. But you see the mindset? This is not coming from the entertainment industry. This is coming probably from pharma or somewhere else. They have no limit in terms of how they think their business will be disrupted. Maybe it's only provocative. I'm not telling you to take drugs or anything. But see how they think. When you talk to bankers, they always say, we will always need bankers. When you talk to lawyers, they all say, we will always need lawyers. When we talk to utility people, they say, we will always need energy. Yeah, but how do you do when Google can cut 40% down on your bill? Would you survive that 40% cut? You're not doing it, that's Google. How do you survive this disruption? So the key is to disrupt your business before someone else disrupts it. And in fact, disruption is everywhere because internet giants even want to disrupt devices and softwares today. Their goal is to make them disappear. They want to have technology disappear. Instead of using softwares and devices, they want to create a single digital assistant for each of us that will replace our smartphone. Instead of using software, we will be using a digital butler that will know us perfectly because we'll interact with it all the time. It will capture our data, know us more than we know ourselves, and we'll interact with it all the time, and it will become our personal expert at everything. This digital butler will be our banker, our lawyer, our advisor, someday maybe our friend, and we will be addicted to interacting with it. Have you watched the movie Her, H-E-R? For those of you who haven't watched it, I highly recommend. This is a story of a guy who he's getting divorced, and he installs an AI in his futuristic smartphone, and he interacts with her every day. She has Scarlett Johansson's voice in the movie, and he ends up falling in love with her because the interaction is so human, seems so human, that we fall for it. In fact, we're pretty much like kids as adults. For a kid, a teddy bear is living. This is a living being for a kid. By growing up, he realizes it's not the case, actually. But as humans, we fall for the same thing when we go to the movies. We express emotions, even though it's fake, it's a movie. When the interaction seems human enough, even though it's with technology, we feel emotions. So we're going to be feeling strong emotions with these digital assistants. In fact, they will end up knowing us so much, these assistants, that they will become a digital copy of us in the digital world, like a digital twin, that will interact on behalf of us with the rest of the world, digital or real. All these assistants, your assistant, those in corporations, and even in objects, will talk directly to each other one day, like we had with the internet. The internet is only a network of stupid machines talking to each other. Now we will have intelligent assistants doing smart things for us. We'll talk to them and ask them to organize our vacations, for instance. And they'll suggest the place to go, like Netflix recommending a movie. And they'll be right all the time because they perfectly know us. They'll handle the logistics to go on vacation, providing us a great experience along the way. They will handle the payment, every problem during the process. They will do all this for us. But all these assistants will talk with each other and with objects. You will ask your friend's intelligent assistant someday to organize a dinner party at home, and it will find the best date that works for everyone. We'll also agree on the menu. And we'll also talk to your fridge or garbage intelligent assistant to make sure you still have beer or to reorder something you're missing. And this is not science fiction. Actually, Amazon released 2 patents where they showed they were putting sensors in your fridge and garbage to recognize what you've consumed so that it can place the orders on behalf of you. We will end up having an open session with technology with the world. Today we open a session with our computer when we use it. Tomorrow, a session will be always opened because ever since you wake up in the morning, objects will recognize you. It will start with your mirror in the living room, in the bathroom. It will recognize you and put you relevant information. And then in your living room with your TV or whatever. And then at the airport with walls recognizing you, providing relevant information. All the objects will recognize you and give you relevant information, contextual information to increase your experience. Technology will disappear. It will actually be everywhere. It will be very light. We won't feel any friction or anything. But it will be like an open session with technology all the time. And this is just the beginning because after we have these digital assistants, we will be entering a world, where we use these technologies to better understand the human brain and to interact directly with the human brain. Because you've all noticed that ever since I started, I haven't defined what intelligence was. I gave a lot of examples, and actually I could have told you a lot more examples about what we can do with artificial intelligence because we have new progresses every day in artificial intelligence. But at no time I have defined what intelligence was. This is because this is a scientific concern. So you'll find 15 different definitions, scientific, not agreeing with each other. This is dynamic. Every time we make new discoveries in the brain, it changes the definition, and we contradict what we were saying a few times ago. It changes. This is dynamic. The thing is, we're using these algorithms to better understand the human brain. This is accelerating neuroscience. And the more we understand the human brain, the better knowledge we get in neuroscience, the more we're able to develop very powerful algorithms in artificial intelligence. They're both feeding each other. This is why it's accelerating. The next step is to use these algorithms to interact directly with our brain. We now have devices that can accurately capture your brain waves, that is the waves your brain generates when you think, recognize them to trigger actions in the environment. For instance, today we can fly a drone just by thinking. Tomorrow you'll turn on the TV just by thinking and switch the channel just by thinking. We can do that today, and we're using AI to do that. We're also using artificial intelligence to draw a picture of what you're picturing in your mind. If you think of a flower, we can use these algorithms today to recognize the patterns of your thoughts and draw in a screen the kind of flower you're thinking of. We can see the pictures you have in your mind. We can read your mind. This is just at the beginning. This is still a bit blurry, but this is developing exponentially. This was Facebook's last keynote last year. They were announcing these devices to interact with technology directly through the brain just by thinking. But their main goal is to have us able to communicate with each other just by thinking. Because actually, typing or interacting by talking with voice with each other, it's a problem. It takes time. This is not efficient. When I talk to someone, he doesn't get the same thing. We're never passing the same messages. With these algorithms, we're going to be able to communicate thoughts directly to other people's minds. And I don't want to scare you, but this is just the beginning. The problem with this revolution in artificial intelligence that I call a disruption is that this is accelerating exponentially. But we cannot see it because our brain works in a linear way. We tend to think that what's going to happen in the next 2 years will be the same in the last 2 years, but this will be probably more than 10 or 15 or 20 years. This will be even more. But we cannot see it because we're used to a stable environment. Our brain looks for stability in the environment. We only see the global picture. In fact, we have so many updates in our smartphones today that this has become our standard. This is our reference. We got used to it, but we don't remember how slow smartphones or computers were 5, 10, 15 years ago. This is accelerating, but we tend to forget. It's like in healthcare. Every time we cure deadly diseases, we forget because we're focused on the next big thing, on the next big disease that we can't cure. But we're progressing, and this is going exponential these days. So I know that there's a few things that might scare you today. This is not my goal to scare you or totally make you dream. I just wanted to give you a few insights in terms of what's going on in artificial intelligence and the big wave of disruption that's coming. And again, this is not science fiction anymore. This is a world we're going to have to enter. We have no choice. We're already there. We just have to know what's going on so that we can adapt to this new world. So thank you for listening to me.